Panic attacks can be terrifying. In fact, for some people who've had a lot of panic attacks, they can bring on a panic attack thinking about the ones that they've had, or thinking about that one might happen at any moment.
That's a lot of panic attacks. But
It
if
is.
that's you, if you struggle with panic attacks, if you have a loved one who struggles with panic attacks, if you want somebody else to understand what you go through because you have a lot of panic attacks, then this is the film for you. So what does a panic attack feel like? Well, imagine that you get the absolute worst piece of news that you could ever imagine. Something that shocks you to the core. It takes your breath away. It makes you feel faint. It makes you feel sick. You can't speak. You can't breathe. You feel like you're frozen to the spot. You might even not even be able to feel your arms and legs. Then if you can imagine that, then that is pretty much what a panic attack can feel like.
A panic attack is actually your fight or flight response, your protection response in overdrive. It's sort of like trying to drive a car with the handbrake on whilst you're revving the engine. You're not going anywhere, you're just creating loads of heat. You'll start trembling, you feel sweaty, you can even get to the point where you start having pins and needles.
Yeah, and a lot of people, because of the symptoms that a panic attack brings on, a lot of people, because they can't breathe or they can't speak or they feel like the heart is beating out of the chest, because of all these symptoms that occur during a panic attack, a lot of people actually think that they're going to die, and that is why they are just so terrifying. And we like to think of panic attacks kind of, if you imagine, we have an analogy. So imagine that you've got this bucket that you carry around with you. This is your bucket of negative emotions. And as things happen through your life, you throw them in that bucket. And then it can just seem like a panic attack comes from nowhere because the smallest things happen because your bucket's full, so you filled it all up with all these negative emotions, then the smallest little drop of something can go in and that overflow is like a panic attack, which is why they can sometimes feel like they've come about because of nothing or they've come out of nowhere. But that is literally what it is. It's kind of that overflow of emotion.
So essentially not coming from nowhere, it's a build-up,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Absolutely a build-up.
And panic attacks, whilst they feel really scary, they're not dangerous. And the best way to deal with them is to find some way of emptying this bucket of negative emotions. You need to poke holes in the bucket, let some emotions come out and deal with them in that way.
Yeah, those emotions can be traumas in your life. They can be heartbreak. They can be things that have upset you. Times where you felt really fearful, where you felt fearful for your life. Times you felt massively embarrassed, when you've gone through grief. So those negative emotions are negative life experiences that have created lots of negative emotions. And the thing that you've got to do is you've got to try and empty that bucket. Poking holes in is just the start. So that poking holes might be things like meditation and breathing through them. However, the best way to deal with the panic attacks is to find what's in that bucket and empty it one by one systematically by dealing with each event at a time, by having therapy, or you can have a look around our YouTube channel because we've got some really great films to help you to understand how you can resolve some of those past negative issues. And we also cover it in our book, Conquering Anxiety, where we explain what anxiety is, what panic attacks are, where they could come from, and how to address them. So, great little tip there is to have a look through that, have a look around our YouTube channel, and we really hope that watching this film has been really interesting and helped, particularly if you don't yourself suffer with panic attacks, help you to understand what it feels like.